And this situation does make me think of all the difficult conversations I've had. Do you know how many women are attacked either by sexual assault, rape, child molestation, and literally are basically told that they're either lying, no one believes them, or outcast because of it? How many times the victim of a circumstances end up being re-victimized by people that they trust because you have to be lying. You have to be lying about being molested. You have to be lying about being raped. You have to be lying about being touched. And then they're silenced. And then people are like, how does this woman end up becoming a prostitute? And you see these Lifetime movies and you're like, how does this woman end up becoming that relationship? How does she end up being this type of... And all we see is the adult version. And we look at them like they're a problem. Like, and I know this about women because I worked with the majority of all the groups I work with women. And then they're the problem. They're like, oh my God, how does she end up in that abusive relationship? I would never stay in that situation. But for all you know, she's been abused her whole entire life. Home was not a safe ground. If you grow up in survivor mode as a child, then that's your state of normal, is survivor mode. So two girls can grow up. One girl can grow up in a healthy, healthy family environment, everything just very normal, low key. Wash, rinse, and repeat. You go to school, you do activities, you have your parents there as the support system. This is who you are. You don't think of any of that stuff. You don't come home to fighting. You don't come home to abuse. You're not afraid if your door is unlocked at night because somebody might come in on you. You don't worry about nobody trying to touch you. You don't worry about no one trying to molest you. You don't worry about no one trying to physically harm you. You feel safe. You grow up and you feel safe and you feel loved and you feel like you're wanted. Now the other girl could be on the other side of town and everything I just said can be the opposite. From a child, she's listening to screaming and hollering and abuse in the home. She has family members or people like friends who have tried to touch her, abuse her, or have even been attacked. Home becomes a battlefield. And that's her childhood. And she's learned to survive. She survived because now she stays later after school for after school activity. And it looks like she's volunteering, but she's actually avoiding going home because she doesn't want to be at the house the same time as someone else. She survives because she gets up earlier than everybody else and leaves so that she doesn't have to engage with the hailstorm that's going to happen in that household if she's up at the same time when everybody is getting up and interacting. She survives because she learns to keep her head down. She survives because she learns to avoid eye contact. She survives because she keeps her mouth shut. She survives because she's already been told that no one's going to believe her. Everyone treats her like crap. And if it even comes up, she is labeled as she is the wild one, the girl in the streets, this type of person. She survives because she spends more sleepovers at friend's house than she does at her home. And everything she has done until she is old enough to leave have been a survivor mechanism. One girl on the other side of town, she's planning colleges. And her parents get up and they go and tour colleges and they get to go and look and say, oh, what school do you want to go to? And her mom and dad are debating on if they should get her a car before she goes to college or maybe wait until she's out of state and buy a car when she gets out of state to that college. And she's had a normal life. She's had the prom experience. She's had the boyfriend experiences. She's been able to do everything she's ever wanted to do. She has all these pictures of her friends all together hanging out and her collages, and literally she has the best life. She gets the newest cell phone. She has the nicest clothes, and that is her story. And the other girl, she's working a job. She's avoiding her home life. She's staying away from everybody. She keeps her eyes down. She learns to keep her mouth shut. She grows up with trust issues. Which one ends up in the domestic violence relationship? Those same two girls become women and they meet the same man. And the one who grew up in that healthy relationship, as soon as that man, who is now abusive, who also grew up in the same situation in survivor mode, but has learned to be charming and has learned to be charismatic and has learned to use what he has to get what he wants. And he meets the same two women. And the first woman is the girl who grew up in the family with a stable background and everything just kind of landed in place. And she meets this guy, and it's wonderful until one day he gets angry because she didn't pay him enough attention. One day he gets angry because he thinks she was looking at someone else. One day he gets angry because she's not giving him what he deserves as respect as a man. She's not treating him like she's supposed to. She doesn't know her place. And everything is good until that moment happens. And then there's the switch. And there's the switch. And now he's triggered. And now he's either humiliating her in front of other people, disrespecting her in public, shaming her, or maybe he's not even doing that. Maybe he's now screaming at her and hollering at her. Maybe they're driving home and she's so terrified because they might get into a car crash because he can't even drive without swerving the wheel, hollering and screaming at her. And inside her body is shutting down because she has never experienced this before. What happens to that girl? She runs. She shuts down in that moment, and as soon as she can escape this guy, she runs. She's going to her safety zone, and her parents will always be safety for her. And she's on a couch, she's crying, and she has all these friends who grew up in the same lifestyle as her. So all her friends come to her aid, and they are like, oh my God, I don't know what happened. And not just her friends' moms, because she had that lifestyle. She has this whole community, this village that raised this child. And she can retreat to that, and this guy is automatically banned. There's a wall of protection around her. And mom, dad, everybody are willing to do whatever it takes to keep him as far away from their daughter. Then he meets the other one. The one who learned to keep her head down. The one who learned to keep her mouth shut. The one who's been in survivor mode for most of her life. And then she wakes up. And she meets him, and he's just as charming and just as charismatic. And she falls hard. But the first time, he starts feeling invalidated, and he tests her, and this is what he's doing. He's testing all these women. You see, he's testing the waters to see which one will allow the disrespect. Instead of running, where do you run to when you have nowhere to run to? Where do you go where you have no one who cares about you? Do you run to the same family that treats you worse than this man? I mean, yeah, he's calling your name, but I mean, at least you're not having to lock your doors at night. That woman weighs it. She weighs it. Like, do I choose going back to him, or do I choose to stay here? Maybe I just stay here. This isn't as bad as being home. I can deal with him screaming. He's not hitting me. He's not touching me. He's not attacking me. I can deal with it. And every time the abuse escalates, she weighs her options. And she says, wait, I can deal with this. I can deal with this. Because she's already been told 1,000 times that she didn't matter. That she's a liar. That she's not validated. I mean, even if she was attacked or touched or messed with as a child, the people who are the adults have already basically said that she was lying. There's no way she can tell the truth because the family has learned to hide the lie. They will automatically protect the lie and save face, then protect her. So she's already learned that liars will protect the lie before they ever give her any safety. So then an abuser don't look so bad, does he? Because now she weighs her options. At least I get this from him. At least I get that and I don't get this. And then he doesn't look so bad. You're willing to take it. You're willing to deal with it. And that one stays. And people say, how can a woman stay in a relationship like that for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? That's how. How can a woman end up prostituting herself and putting her body on the street? That's how. How can a woman end up doing drugs and heroin and alcohol? That's how. You know, it doesn't matter what nationality she is. The stories always feel very familiar. Doesn't matter how old she is, always feel familiar. And then the family that she comes from, if she ever decides to disclose, oh, you better believe they're going to make sure they shut her down. They're going to come together so quick with that wall of protection to save face. Then they're going to do whatever it takes to make her look like she's the problem. Because no one could know our secrets. No one could know behind walls we are abusive. No one could know that we beat, hurt, harm, assault. So if we had to sacrifice you to protect the family image, oh, trust and believe they'll sacrifice you. So she's already learned that. 2 women, same town, 2 different environments, same man, and people wonder, how do you end up there? How did that woman end up in a homeless shelter, transitional housing shelter? How did that woman end up being her? And I say that because every woman always has a story. Every single one. And I only know that because I worked with women. Every single person has a story. And you're like, what happened to that person? Well, there's a lot of things that happened. The system that was built around that person had failed before probably that child was 10. And then by the time she became a woman, the more and more systems. And then if people at home don't believe you, do you really think the people at school are going to believe you? You think your teachers are going to believe you? Remember, that family system is going to shut you down if you ever expose them. So what happens to her? What happens to her? And the other one, well, she ends up meeting the guy. And she meets a guy who doesn't yell at her and doesn't abuse her because she didn't grow up in survivor mode. And she ends up having the family, and she gets to build, and she gets to have a normal life because she doesn't know what hectic is, because she had parents who loved her. And this other one, well, however long she's in this relationship, it's time. And those poor children, guess what? That cycle continues. Whether males or females, they're also learning. And now that man who was abusive becomes a father who's abusive, and his kids all have to deal with whatever abuse. And that generational curse keeps on ticking until someone finally says enough. And if it's sons that they have, those boys grow up and they either be like his father, or they can't stand their father and they're the total opposite. They either become like the abuser or they turn away. And if they become like the abuser, their kids learn it too. And their sons have no respect for women, just like their fathers didn't. And next thing you know, they're beating their women too. And it just becomes the norm. And for the girls, they either get in abusive relationships and somebody is beating on them, or they're just as abusive. Or they spend their whole life fighting everybody, hurting everybody, attacking everybody. And either they're physically abusive, emotionally abusive, or just violent. And that just passes on. And it just continues, and those cycles continues from generation to generation until someone finally stops it. And to them, if you told them they were abusive, they would act like you're the problem because this is the norm. This is what they were taught. So they end up abusing their children. And their girls grew up in the same environment. And their boys grew up in the same environment. And the cycle just continues. And don't cross them. Because if you cross one of them, then trust and believe they're going to come for you. And they're going to abuse you too. And they're the co-workers that will sabotage your work. And they're the people, and you're like, God, that person is so angry and spiteful. Where do you think it came from? And they're the people, when they say misery loves company, why do you think they say misery loves company? Because now they've experienced it from their parents, then they marry into it. They're just surrounded by it. And they're unhappy, and they're miserable, and it just spreads like a virus. And sometimes they can attack somebody at their job just because that person is just too happy. Who's whole? And you sit around it and you're like, how is this person this way? And this is how it happens. And this is where it comes from. Hurt people hurt people. Violence is learned. A baby is just born. It's learned within the household. Either verbally, through communication, or they see it physically, but it's all learned. And then you're like, all of a sudden that kid is getting reports, and you're like, what is going on with this child at school? And then the same thing at work. And they're the bully in the office. But they've been the bully way before they became the bully in the office. They've been the bully as a kid. And everyone's bullying differently. Some people are physically, and some people don't bully physical. Some people just bully verbally. And they're the one that spread the rumors and that do the isolation. And it's because they're telling on themselves they are miserable. And they have no control at home. So they are a tyrant when you work with them. But where does it come from? This is where this all comes from. And it's crazy because everyone can ask, what happened to this person when they're the problem? When you finally have to catch up to them and they're the problem. But no one asks what happens to this person when they were the kid, when they were the teenager, when there were so many times that somebody could have came and intervened and no one cared. But now we care. And that's what happened.